Think a dime is only worth 10 cents? Think again. Some Roosevelt dimes are worth hundreds, even thousands, hiding in your pocket right now. From rare mint errors to valuable silver editions, these tiny coins can bring huge profits. Don't miss your chance. Check your dimes today, because one small coin could change everything. The 1975 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime is one of those coins that captures both mystery and fascination within the world of American numismatics. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 10-cent coin, but hidden among the millions struck that year are extremely rare error varieties that have become legendary among collectors. These small mistakes, made unintentionally by the U.S. Mint, transformed a common piece of change into a coin that could be worth anywhere from $62,000 to as much as $142,500, depending on its condition and rarity. The 1975 Roosevelt dime proves that even the smallest coin in your pocket could hold a story, and a fortune that most people would never expect. To understand why this coin is so special, you need to go back to the mid-1970s. The Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation since 1946, created as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The obverse features his profile with the word liberty and the famous motto, "In God We Trust," while the reverse shows a torch, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, representing peace and strength. By 1975, the coin's design was familiar to every American. However, what few knew was that something unusual happened during the minting process that year, an event that would later make collectors hunt feverishly for a specific version of the dime. In 1975, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and Denver produced over 585 million Roosevelt dimes for circulation. However, the San Francisco Mint was preparing proof coins for collectors, coins that were struck with extra care and polished dies to achieve a mirror-like finish. The San Francisco proof coins were all supposed to carry an S mint mark below Roosevelt's neck, but in an incredible twist, a small number were struck without that mint mark. This no-S proof dime became one of the most famous and valuable modern coin errors in American history. The absence of the S mint mark wasn't noticed right away. Proof coins were sold directly to collectors in sealed sets, and only after some time did one sharp-eyed collector realize his 1975 proof dime lacked the identifying mark. That discovery set off a frenzy. Soon, experts confirmed that only 2 examples of the 1975 no-S Roosevelt dime were known to exist, making it one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever struck. The fact that a proof coin, designed for collectors, could escape the mint without such a critical detail made it even more extraordinary. At auctions, the 1975 no-S Roosevelt dime has achieved almost mythical status. In 2011, one of the 2 known examples sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an incredible $349,600. Years later, another specimen, perfectly preserved in PR68 grade, brought $456,000 at a Stax Bowers auction. Although these examples exceed the range of the most common high-grade errors, they show how astonishingly valuable certain 1975 dimes can be. Even more conventional error varieties, such as off-center strikes, double die obverse, or broad strikes, have reached impressive prices, often between $62,000 and $142,500 depending on condition and rarity. The 1975 dime is also famous for a few remarkable minting mistakes that occurred in circulation strikes. Some coins show doubling in the words, "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," particularly around Roosevelt's profile. These double die errors are rare and visually striking, often giving the letters a shadowed or doubled appearance. In pristine condition, a strong double die error can easily bring $10,000 to $25,000, while proof-like examples have been known to exceed $50,000 at auction. Then there are off-metal strikes, coins struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake that fascinates collectors. A 1975 Roosevelt dime struck on a copper cent planchet, for example, was authenticated by PCGS and sold for $61,000 in 2020. It had a reddish hue and weighed less than the normal 2.27 grams. Yet the details of the dime's design were clearly visible. Another coin from the same year, struck on a silver planchet left over from pre-1965 dimes, fetched $82,000. These incredible minting errors highlight just how unpredictable the coin manufacturing process can be, and how those mistakes can lead to immense value decades later. In 2019, Another fascinating discovery occurred when a collector found a 1975 dime with a mirror-like proof finish but no visible mint mark, sending it for grading out of curiosity. After examination, experts determined it wasn't the legendary no-S proof, but rather a rare high-grade business strike with full torch details on the reverse, something known as full bands among collectors. The sharp separation of the torch's bands indicated an unusually strong strike. That coin, graded MS-68 full bands, sold for $12,600 at a Great Collections auction. Even though it wasn't an error, its flawless condition made it incredibly desirable. For coin collectors, the 1975 dime represents a perfect blend of history, craftsmanship, and mystery. It's a coin that proves how even a small, simple design can hide extraordinary surprises. The no-S proof error is one of the most elusive finds in all of numismatics, and the stories surrounding it have become legendary. Imagine a coin so rare that only two are known to exist, both carefully preserved in private collections or museums, their whereabouts tracked by experts around the world. The thrill of searching for one keeps collectors checking their change and re-examining old coin sets. Some even dream of stumbling across one in an inherited proof set, a discovery that could change their life overnight. Stories have circulated of people finding valuable mint errors by accident. In one case, a retired couple in Oregon discovered a double-struck 1975 dime among old rolls and sold it for $68,000 at auction. Another collector in Texas uncovered a broad-struck dime, slightly enlarged and missing the reeded edge, which later sold for $41,000. Collectors today are more alert than ever, knowing that even a small detail, a missing mint mark, a faint doubling, or an off-center strike, can mean the difference between 10 cents and a six-figure treasure. Websites, coin forums, and grading services are filled with discussions about potential varieties of the 1975 dime, with enthusiasts posting photos and seeking expert opinions. The excitement is understandable, given that history has proven how a single overlooked detail can transform an ordinary proof coin into one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever made. Auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly feature Roosevelt dimes among their top-selling modern coins, and the 1975 examples always attract special attention. Even near-perfect MS-69 or PR-70 coins with exceptional luster and clarity have fetched over $20,000 without any visible errors. But when errors do appear, prices skyrocket. A 1975 double die reverse in PR-67 grade sold for $76,000, while another struck slightly off-center realized $84,000. These numbers show that condition, rarity, and uniqueness all play major roles in determining value. What makes the Roosevelt dime series so beloved among collectors is its accessibility. Most people have handled one, yet few realize how much variety and history the series holds. The 1975 coin stands out as a turning point, a year that accidentally produced one of the rarest coins in American numismatic history. It reminds us that even in the most controlled environments, human error can create something extraordinary. For new collectors, the lesson is simple: always look closely. A small difference in detail, a missing letter, an unusual texture, or a light doubling, can mean the coin in your hand is worth thousands. And for those lucky enough to find one of the elusive 1975 no-S proof dimes, that discovery could be life-changing. Imagine owning a piece of American history that collectors and museums compete to possess, a coin whose value has risen from 10 cents to over $142,500, and possibly much more in future auctions. So the next time you sort through old proof sets or inherited coin albums, pay close attention to those tiny dimes dated 1975. They might look like ordinary change, but hidden among them could be one of the most valuable modern coins ever produced. The story of the 1975 Roosevelt dime isn't just about money. It's about history, luck, and the timeless thrill of discovery. Because sometimes, the smallest coin in your hand can hold the biggest surprise, and maybe even a six-figure secret waiting to be revealed. The 1965 Roosevelt dime sits quietly in the palm of your hand, small, familiar, often overlooked. It was the first full year after the U.S. Mint changed designs and processes in the 1960s, and to most people it's just another 10-cent piece. But for collectors, a handful of these 1965 dimes tell a very different story, one of manufacturing quirks, transitional practices at the mint, and rare errors that have turned ordinary coins into coveted treasures. Some examples of these mistakes have sold at auction for eye-popping sums, ranging from about $66,500 up to $144,000, and every known specimen carries a tiny, irreplaceable slice of minting history. 1965 was a transitional year. The Coinage Act changes were still fresh, production lines were humming, and the mint was adapting to new planchet alloys and higher output. That combination, enormous production plus rapid technical change, is exactly the environment where oddities can slip through. The Roosevelt dime design itself was established, but the metallurgy and presses were shifting toward the kinds of automated precision that would reduce errors in future decades. A few planchets, dies, collars, or human lapses, however, left behind coins with dramatic anomalies. For collectors who study mint errors, the 1965 dimes are a goldmine of fascinating varieties. One of the most dramatic and sought-after errors in the 1965 series is the missing-clad or stripped-clad dime. Modern dimes, post-1965, are manufactured with a copper core and layers of cupronickel cladding. If that cladding fails to bond or is absent on a strike, the exposed copper core shows through, sometimes on one side, sometimes across the entire piece. The visual effect is immediate. Where you'd expect a silver tone, you see warm copper. That contrast makes the coin a showpiece in any collection. An expertly preserved 1965 missing-clad specimen with full luster and a clear date has been known to reach prices in the high five figures, about $66,500 in a recent specialist sale, because it is both dramatic and extremely rare. Closely related are off-metal strikes, dimes struck on the wrong planchet. In mint rooms that produce multiple denominations and handle different blank inventories, mistakes can occur. A dime die accidentally contacting a cent planchet, or a planchet from another country, or a leftover experimental blank. The results range from copper-colored dimes to oddly weighted pieces with slightly different diameters. A 1965 Roosevelt struck on a planchet not intended for dimes can look, sound, and weigh foreign, but the design is unmistakably Roosevelt. Collectors prize these wrong planchet examples, and when one of these pieces reached the market in near-mint condition, it sparked fierce bidding. One notable sale closed above $89,200 at a competitive auction, underscoring how rare and desirable these anomalies are. Off-center strikes are another dramatic class of errors from 1965. That happens when the planchet shifts or is misaligned in the press and the die hits it off-center, producing a coin where part of the design is missing and an unstruck crescent of blank metal appears. Off-center dimes are unique, no two are identical, and their value is driven by two things: how much of the design is missing and whether the date remains visible. A 1965 dime struck roughly 40 to 60% off-center with a fully legible date can command collector attention and bids in the tens of thousands. Auction records show examples of 1965 off-center Roosevelt dimes selling for prices up toward $112,400 when the eye appeal and date visibility align for collectors. Double strikes and double die errors also make 1965 dimes special. A double die occurs at the hubbing stage, an imperfection in die preparation that results in parts of the design appearing doubled on every coin struck from that die. On a dime, doubling is often most visible in the lettering Liberty, the motto, or the date, and occasionally in fine portrait details. A true double die Roosevelt from 1965, well-centered and with bold doubling, will draw attention from die-variant collectors. Multiple strike coins, where a coin was struck, shifted, and struck again, produce ghostly, displaced images that are visually spectacular. These have brought strong auction prices, sometimes north of $70,000 depending on strike clarity and overall preservation. Broad-struck dimes are another captivating error type. Normally a collar holds the planchet in place and forms the rim. If the collar fails, the metal spreads outward when struck and the coin becomes slightly larger and flattened, with weak or absent reading on the edge. Broad-struck examples from 1965 can be quite attractive. The central devices often remain sharp while the rim fades away into a smooth border. Collectors like the unusual look and quality broad-struck 1965 dimes have sold for solid premiums at major auctions, sometimes fetching mid-five-figure results when the piece has strong eye appeal. Some of the most remarkable 1965 dime errors are the double denomination or overstrike varieties, where a coin originally struck as one denomination is later struck with a different denomination's dies. Imagine seeing traces of both a penny and a dime on the same piece. the overlapping designs are uncanny. These errors are exceptionally scarce, and when authenticated and certified, they often drive the highest prices in the market. A documented example of a 1965 dime overstruck on another denomination has achieved headline-level prices internationally, with top specimens entering the low six-figure territory. Bids have climbed to near $144,000 for the most spectacular, uniquely preserved examples in competitive auctions. Die cracks, cuds, and die clashing are smaller-scale errors but still very collectible when present on a 1965 Roosevelt dime. Die cracks show up as raised lines or ridges on the struck coin and can produce intriguing and distinctive varieties. A prominent die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies contact without a planchet in between, can leave ghost-like images of the eagle on the obverse or faint remnants of Roosevelt's profile on the reverse. Though these often do not reach the extraordinary prices of wrong planchet or double denomination errors, well-defined die cracks or clashes on 1965 dimes have still achieved thousands to tens of thousands of dollars at specialized sales, especially when the coin is in high grade and the error is visually pronounced. Provenance and grading play a huge role in the values we see at auction. Coins submitted to PCGS, NGC, or similar services and given high grades, MS65 and above, command substantial premiums. A high-grade 1965 dime with a dramatic error will typically appear in major auction houses, heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, great collections, and bidding can escalate quickly as collectors and dealers compete. For instance, a mint-state 1965 missing-clad dime sold through a respected auction house for about $66,500. Another wrong planchet example achieved roughly $89,200. And the rarest double-denomination overstruck piece drew bids up toward $144,000. Those sales demonstrate how the market values rarity, condition, and eye appeal together. What should you look for if you want to know whether a 1965 dime in your collection could be special? Start with the obvious: color and weight. A dime that appears copper or has an unusual hue could be a missing-clad or wrong planchet specimen. Weighing the coin can also reveal discrepancies. A wrong planchet dime will typically deviate from the standard 2.27 grams. Check for off-center strikes where part of the portrait or date is missing. Those are easy to spot with the naked eye. Look for doubled letters or faint ghost images from die clashing, and examine the rim. A broad strike will lack the normal sharply reeded edge. If anything looks odd, photograph the coin, measure its weight, and consider professional authentication. Errors that look dramatic and authentic can be worth sending to a grading service. The stories behind many of the 1965 dime discoveries are almost as captivating as the coins themselves. Found in change jars, tucked away in old wallets, pulled from rolls at a bank. A retired teacher who cleaned out an old desk drawer and found a copper-toned 1965 dime had no idea of its value until an online forum identified it as a missing-clad error. She later consigned the coin to an auction where it sold well into 5 figures. Another collector discovered an off-center 1965 dime among a lot of circulated coins and, after grading, watched it sell for a price far beyond his expectations. Those personal discovery stories are why so many hobbyists still check rolls, coin jars, and loose change. The appeal of 1965 Roosevelt dime errors extends beyond money. Collectors are fascinated by the human and mechanical narrative embedded in these coins. Each error is a fossil of a moment when minting machinery and human oversight didn't produce the intended result, and that imperfection, frozen in metal, becomes a story to tell. Whether you're a seasoned error specialist or someone who simply enjoys the thrill of the hunt, the 1965 dimes reward curiosity and careful observation. The year 2000 gave us more than a new millennium. For coin collectors, it quietly produced a handful of Roosevelt dimes that would later turn ordinary pocket change into headline-making rarities. At first glance, a 2000 Roosevelt dime looks familiar and modest. Roosevelt's profile, the torch, olive, and oak branches on the reverse, 10 cents in metal. But when minting machinery, human error, or odd planchet mixes intervene, the result can be a coin that stops a room full of collectors cold. Some 2000 dimes with dramatic errors have brought prices from $41,100 to as high as $114,000 at major auctions, and each one has a story worth telling. Let's walk through the kinds of errors that made a 2000 dime jump from 10 cents to tens of thousands of dollars, how to spot them, and a few auction results that show just how hungry collectors are for modern rarities. First, understand that modern U.S. mint production is fast and precise. errors that survive into circulation tend to be eye-catching and unique. That's why the 2000 Roosevelt dime errors that attract the most attention are the ones you can see without a microscope. The ones that make people stop, squint, and say, "Wait, what is that?" One of the most visually arresting errors is the off-center strike. Imagine a dime where Roosevelt's face is pushed toward one edge and a crescent of blank metal sits where design should be. Off-center strikes are graded in percentage of displacement. A dime struck 30 to 40% off-center still showing a full date is desirable, but when you find a 50 to 70% off-center piece where much of the portrait is missing yet the date remains readable, that's when collectors take notice. A 2000 dime with a roughly 40% off-center strike and exceptional surface quality recently sold at a major auction for about $41,100. Proof that even modest off-center errors, when preserved well, can command impressive money. Another more dramatic 55% off-center specimen, with full mint luster and a visible mint mark, went under the hammer for more than $68,000 at a prominent sale, illustrating how centering and eye appeal drive value. Double strikes and double dies are another class of errors that turn heads. In a double-struck dime, the coin was struck more than once, sometimes with a shift in position or rotation between strikes. The result is a layered, ghosted image. Letters appear doubled, lines of the torch and branches show shadows, and Roosevelt's outline can look spectral. A double-struck 2000 dime with strong, obvious doubling and a near-uncirculated grade recently brought $83,700 at an auction, where bidders competed fiercely for the dramatic effect and rarity. Double dies, where the tooling itself was improperly hubbed, can also create bold doubling on inscriptions. When the doubling is clean, deep, and on full display, the market responds. Perhaps the most jaw-dropping group of sales involves dimes struck on the wrong planchet. These are coins where a dime die meets a blank intended for another denomination or composition. A dime struck on a cent planchet, instantly noticeable because of its copper tone and different weight, becomes a museum piece curiosity. These wrong planchet pieces are rare because modern production lines are segregated by denomination, so when one slips through, it captures immediate attention. Several 2000 dimes struck on non-standard planchets have crossed auction blocks for five-figure sums. The most spectacular of these reached the upper end of the range, with a certified example that combined an obvious off-metal appearance and flawless preservation achieving $114,000 at a marquee auction event. That sale set hearts racing and reminded collectors that even modern errors can produce record prices. Missing clad layer errors are another showstopper for Roosevelt dimes. The dime's sandwich construction, a copper core clad with cupronickel, usually bonds seamlessly. But when a layer fails to adhere properly or a planchet is improperly prepared, part of the copper core can be exposed. A dime with one face revealing the reddish copper core and the other showing the normal silver tone is dramatic and instantly identifiable. Clean, high-grade examples of 2000 dimes with missing clad layers have sold in the mid-five-figure neighborhood at respected auction houses. One particularly eye-catching specimen with full luster and a strong strike sold for approximately $57,200, attracting bidders who prize both visual pop and rarity. Broad strikes and collar failures provide yet another visual class of errors. When the collar that forms the coin's edge fails to engage, the metal flows outward, producing a wider, flatter coin with a soft edge where the reading should be. These pieces look almost medallion-like and are highly collectible when the central design remains sharp. In the 2000 dime series, broad-struck examples with strong detail and attractive surfaces have realized solid returns at auction, often in the lower to mid five-figure range, because they're easy to identify and appealing on the shelf. A broad strike from 2000 in near-mint state sold for close to $46,500, showing the appetite for appealing, dramatic modern errors. Die breaks, cuds, and die clashes tell a different kind of story. Not a spectacular one-off visual, but a narrative of tool wear and failure. A die clash happens when the obverse and reverse dies meet without a planchet between them, transferring faint images of one side to the other. When that faint ghost image lands on Roosevelt's cheek or across the torch, it becomes a collectible oddity. Die breaks and cuds, places where a chunk of the die fractured away, leave raised, amorphous blobs of metal on the coin surface. Collectors who specialize in die varieties prize these for their uniqueness. In 2000 dimes, dramatic die cracks with pleasing eye appeal have sold for several thousand to low five figures at specialized auctions. One notable 2000 dime with a strong die clash and attractive toning fetched $32,400, underscoring that not all high-value errors must be huge and obvious. Condition matters more than ever. A dramatic error in well-preserved mint-state condition will always outshine a similar error in worn condition. That's why certified, high-grade examples with attractive eye appeal bring the best money. Bidders want the drama of the error without distractions like heavy contact marks or corrosion. Many of the finest 2000 dime error sales have been for PCGS or NGC certified coins in MS65 or higher, and auction catalogs consistently show strong premiums for high grades. For example, a 2000 double-struck dime graded MS67 with bold doubling and pristine surfaces sold for about $91,200. A sale that proved collectors will pay a premium for the combination of rarity and perfection. Provenance and auction venue matter, too. Coins sold through established houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections tend to attract more competitive bidding, often resulting in higher realized prices. A 2000 missing-clad dime offered at a major heritage sale drew international interest and closed near the lower end of our range, while a rare wrong planchet specimen sold through a specialized Stack's Bowers auction smashed estimates and helped push the high end of the market to six figures. Those big public sales create publicity which feeds interest, which in turn helps push prices. So how do you look for these gems? First, learn what normal looks like for a Roosevelt dime. Size, color, reeded edge, uniform silver tone. Anything that deviates, odd color, too small diameter, smooth edge, doubled letters, or an unmistakable off-center composition, is worth a second look. Weight matters. Wrong planchet dimes often weigh differently. If you see copper showing where it shouldn't, or a dime larger than expected, set it aside. Photographs from reputable auction lots can help you train your eye. Many recent sales have excellent images that exemplify the types of errors that command top dollar. Stories of discovery keep the hobby alive. One collector who routinely rolls dimes for his small business found a 2000 dime with a faint secondary strike and unusual toning. After grading, it realized $48,900 at auction. Another hobbyist discovered a copper-toned 2000 dime mixed in a roll of pennies and, after authentication, watched it sell for $82,000 at a high-profile sale. Those moments, ordinary life intersecting with numismatic luck, are what draw new collectors into the hunt. The market for modern era coins like the 2000 Roosevelt dime has matured. What was once a niche corner of the hobby is now a legitimate collecting field with serious buyers, professional grading, and established auction records. Demand is driven both by seasoned collectors who value variety and by newer investors recognizing that dramatic modern errors can appreciate rapidly. Whether you're an experienced variety collector or just someone who found a strange dime in a jar, understanding the types of errors, the importance of condition, and the role of reputable auction houses will help you navigate the market.